Hello everyone, my name is Karen Gans and I'm the Training and Technical Assistance Manager with the ECEAP program at the Department of Early Learning. Prior to this role, I was a pre-K specialist with the ECEAP team, and in that role I primarily worked with ECEAP contractors on the east side of the state. In the room with me today I have Kelly DeBoer. Kelly is a pre-K specialist new to the team just this month, and she will be working with me to provide coaching supports to ECEAP coaches during the 2015-16 school year. I also have Sue Rose in the room with me. Sue is another pre-K specialist, and Sue has been working on the hybrid project with coaches who are part of that hybrid project, and she is also our Early Achievers content specialist on the team. We are really glad that you're here with us for our first ECEAP Coach webinar. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the Department of Early Learning website. All participants are currently in listen-only mode. If you have comments or questions during the presentation, go ahead and just type them into the questions box, and we'll periodically check to see if you have any questions, and we'll answer them as we're able. All right, so today I'm going to talk about the history of ECEAP and coaching. I'm going to answer some questions that have been sent in, and I'm going to share some current and future resources and let you know how to contact us. So let's get started with ECEAP and coaching. We know that although many of you were providing coach support to ECEAP classrooms and sites prior to 2014-15, it really became an official or formalized role just last year. So this was 2014 was the first year that we required ECEAP contractors to have a formalized coach role. Last year, programs focused on identifying coaches or coaches for their program and making sure that they were trained in the Early Achievers Coach model through the Child Care Quality and Early Learning, or CEQUAL program. So for all of us in ECEAP programs and at the state office, this is a newer role. And as we launch into year 2 of the implementation of this work, we look forward to developing ECEAP coach supports based on your input and needs. I wanted to take a moment to point out that we have coaches from all different configurations on the call with us today. These include coaches who work with CCA, supporting classrooms on the licensed pathway in Early Achievers. We have coaches who work with ECEAP programs. Not all of these coaches are employees of those programs, but some are in their work in supporting classrooms on the Head Start ECEAP pathway. And we have coaches who have sites that don't meet the definitions for licensed or Head Start ECEAP pathway, and those coaches are participating in the hybrid project and are working closely with Sue Rose. We also have coaches who have sites that have Head Start or ECEAP classrooms and licensed classrooms at the same site location. So they're working closely, so the CCA coaches and the Head Start ECEAP coaches are working closely together to make sure that they provide collaborative coaching coordination. So I just want to thank those of you who sent questions and comments in, and I'm going to go ahead and get started with some of the questions that you sent in. So the first one is, what is considered a reasonable number of classes for one coach to work with? So the University of Washington CEQUAL program is in the process of determining this. Unfortunately, that means that there's not a firm number that they are providing at this time. However, based on the Seeds to Success pilot and subsequent coaching data that SQL's collected, they've determined that coaches who spend 4 hours per month with a teacher or a classroom have gains of about 1 point per year in their ratings. So considering this data, then you would want to structure coaching so that you spend 1 hour per week per classroom you're assigned to if you believe that classroom would need to move up 1 point in rating. If you determine that a classroom needs to increase by more than 1 point, then you would increase your coaching accordingly and obviously within reason. In addition, it's important that you take into consideration travel time to and from site locations when finalizing this number for your program. And of course, you're also going to just sort this out with your coworkers and your program around what is going to be a reasonable load and is going to, I mean, you're also going to get this based on the feedback from classrooms and teachers. All right, so the second question is, are we required to use the quality assurance materials forms? So these forms can be found in your Coach Framework training notebook and are related to fidelity checklist. Currently, there are no required forms for coaches to use. The resources provided to you by SQL are intended to be supports in your work as an early achievers coach. I'm waiting to hear back from SQL staff about whether or not they've updated these forms and moved them out of their draft status, and I'll be sure to share these forms with all of you in case you want to use them in your coaching work this year. So let's just pause for a moment and check in and see if we have any questions. Go ahead.
Just really quick, Lupe, it looks like you have your hand raised, and so if you wouldn't mind typing in your question, if you have a question or a concern or if you need help with anything, that way we can help you out.
Thanks, Sue. All right, moving on to the next question. So how should the classroom staff supervisor be included in the coaching, if at all? So this is a great question and is really dependent on who the supervisor is and the center staff's relationship with that supervisor, and then your relationship with that supervisor as well. So this will be, you'll want to create an individualized approach. And I would invite, if there are any coaches on the line that have faced this type of situation and have come up with some strategies, to alert us in the questions box, and then we'll unmute you and have you share some of your ideas with us. So I'm going to give people just a moment to chime in to let us know if they have faced this and have some great strategies that they've come up with. Okay, looks like nobody's stepping forward, which is totally all right. I'll probably add this question to a SurveyMonkey that I'm going to be talking about a little bit later in the presentation. So the next question is, are we required to have consultations with the University of Washington Coach Support Team? And the answer to that is no, you are not required, and that at this point in time, that coach consultation is available for CCA coaches. And this seems like a good time to just take a moment to review the ECEAP coach requirements. And what I'll tell you is that Section 10 in the contract is your area. So in Section 10, it outlines what the coach, ECEAP Early Achiever Coach responsibilities are. So one is that you're supposed to complete your orientation for Early Achievers coaches working with ECEAP sites upon hire. This orientation is still being developed, so if you're saying, uh-oh, I haven't done that yet, it's okay because that has not been made available to you. We're in the process of recording that actually this week and hope to have that posted on the website soon. These webinars will be available on demand so that you can watch them when it works best for you in your schedule. The other requirement is that you attend an Early Achievers Coach Framework training within 6 months of hire. These are provided through the SQL program, and also giving you a little bit more information about how to sign up for one of these trainings. You need to participate in Early Achiever ECEAP Coach webinars, which you're doing today. Fantastic work. Trainings and any meetings that we may schedule. And then the last piece is that you need to register in Merit and enter data as required into WELS. And I'm going to be talking a little bit later in the presentation about what that WELS training is going to look like and how you're going to access that information. In addition, ECEAP programs need to have coaches working the program so that you're supporting rating readiness and ongoing continuous quality improvement. And then, with that information, you're supposed to be assisting the contractor in identifying goals and making quality improvement plans to achieve those goals. So those are the requirements in the current requirements in the ECEAP contract around your work as a coach. All right, so the next question is, when will we be required to use WELS? So for those of you who don't know, WELS is a web-based early learning system, and new ECEAP roles have just recently been built into the WELS system. The data team at Dell is currently in the process of putting your coaching information into WELS so that you'll be able to have access to the sites that you work with. In addition, we're in the process at the Department of Early Learning of creating a webinar that you'll be able to view online that will talk about the WELS system, the data entry requirements, and the resources that you'll be able to access in that WELS system. We hope to have this available to you soon, and once this is posted on the Dell website, then you'll be able to get your training and then access WELS and begin entering data. And I'll be sure to keep you posted about your access and when that will begin. So I'll just add that other coaches have let me know that they'd like to have resources available to coach classroom staff around challenging behaviors, TS Gold data collection tips, intervention or changes that help increase ECERS and class scores, and how coaches who share a site with a CC coach are finding ways to partner and collaborate. So those will all be areas that we'll be sure to cover in the webinars that we have throughout the year this year. Continue to let me know your questions and interest areas, and I'll add them to the list for future webinar topics and discussions as well. So I'm going to pause for just a moment and see if we have any questions. Looks like we do. So there's a question asking about clarifying around the orientation for early achievers coaches working with ECEAP sites, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit when I talk about the resources that are available to you at Dell. So I'll give you a little bit more information about that. Oh, okay, and it looks like we have a tip from someone. Okay, so it looks like it's Nancy Snyder. So Nancy, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. The tip is around working with a supervisor at a site. All right, Nancy, you're unmuted. Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hi, Nancy.
Hi.
I can, yeah.
It was really Holly's suggestion, and she's here as well.
Oh, Holly. Excellent. Okay, Holly, thanks for the suggestion. So your suggestions around when you're working with a supervisor at a site as a coach. So can you just go ahead and share it with the whole group?
Well, I think you talked about, there was the question about how a supervisor is involved, and you mentioned that relationship piece, and I think that's really key, that sometimes when a supervisor is present at a debriefing session, for instance, it can cause a different sort of dynamic, and so depending on the the relationship, I think it's best if the coach and the person they're coaching have a chance to decide when the supervisor is involved in meetings, but I do think the coach should always keep the supervisor in the loop of what's going on.
Okay, so it's that tricky balance that you have as a coach in working with classroom staff to support them and then help bring them in and have a voice around what pieces the supervisor will be part of. And then you can also probably share up front the pieces that you'll be needing to share with their supervisor as well.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Okay, and so then it looks like there's another question, actually from Nancy, who is just on the phone, wanting to know when Wales is available to us, will coaches be required to enter data into Yelp? Or Wales, will you be required to enter data into Wales? And the answer to that is yes. There are some data entry requirements for coaches with WELS this year, and that will all be outlined for you in the WELS training that you're going to receive. Okay, so let me go ahead and let you know that I'm going to just provide a brief review of some of the resources that are going to be available to you, that are currently available to you as an EA coach. And when you let me know your interest areas and needs, then in future webinars we can take a deeper look into specific areas that you identify. So there are 3 organizations in the state that provide support to EA coaches currently. The first is Child Care Aware, and CCA currently provides training and TA for CCA coaches working in licensed facilities and with ECEAP sites that are on the licensed pathway. Dell is working closely with CCA to build off of their expertise and coaching and combine resources for all EA coaches in Washington. So by the next webinar, I hope to have more resources to highlight from CCA that will be applicable to the work that you're doing. The other agencies that provide support to coaches is the Department of Early Learning and SQL. So I'm going to just take some time to talk more specifically about the resources available from the Department of Early Learning. So new this year from Dell are the monthly coach webinars, which are happening now. We have our first one right today. These webinars will all be recorded and posted to the Dell website because we know that you have busy schedules and that you may not always be able to attend live recordings. And we want you to be able to access them, to go back and gather information if you need it, or just to be able to view it when it works best for you. I'll be sure to send an email to the group once webinars are posted on the website. And the rest of the ECEAP Coach webinars are scheduled for the first Thursday of each month from 9 to 10:30. And I sent the dates out for the year in a previous email, but please let me know if you didn't get that information or if you have any questions about that. So the next resource that is also new from Dell this year is coach orientation webinars. So in the contract, it says that there is an orientation that you need to complete, and since that has been written into the contract, we've really determined that we want to be able to break it down into a series of 4 webinar trainings that are going to be brief and informative for you. And these webinars are going to cover the following topics. So the first webinar will provide a brief and broad overview of ECEAP, early achievers, the quality standards, and the Head Start ECEAP reciprocity project. This is going to be a basic overview and will be a repeat for some people who have been working in ECEAP or working as in the coaching role for quite some time. So this is an optional webinar. The part 2 is going to cover ECEAP pathways and the rating process. This is again a basic overview that may have some reminders in it for you, and you'll be able to decide whether or not you feel like you have enough information with that or not. I think both of these webinars are going to be about 15 minutes long, so they won't take a great deal of your time. The part 3, or the third webinar, will talk about early achievers timelines, the coach role, and resources, and I would really strongly recommend that everybody view and watch this webinar. And then the 4th webinar will cover the WELS system and data entry requirements, as well as resources that are going to be available to you. And I also strongly suggest that everybody view this webinar, because this is going to give you the information you need to begin your work in WELS. Department of Early Learning also offers Teaching Strategies Gold trainings and Creative Curriculum trainings. These trainings are available throughout the year around the state in a variety of venues. We try to have them be as local as possible when we can. I will say that the Creative Curriculum trainings are currently available to contractors who provide full-day and extended-day services. Other program staff or classroom staff can attend as space is available in these trainings. The information about when these trainings are happening is available in the ECEAP monthly reminders and links publication. And if you're not receiving this publication, then we ask you to please ask your director to forward it to you. And if you experience any troubles with this, let me know, and I can add you to the distribution list. Another resource that we have this year that's new is a series of hybrid pathway webinars. So these webinars are available to coaches who are participating in the hybrid pathway this year. Hybrid project this year. Oh, look at that, I told them. So it's not a pathway, my apologies, it is a project. So the hybrid project webinars. And then related to the hybrid project webinars is are some trainings that one training was already provided on ERS strategies, and that training is going to be posted on the Dell website for all EA coaches in ECEAP to be able to access. And then we have an insight into class training webinar that has been scheduled, and that will also be recorded and posted on the website. However, that one has not happened yet. That's going to be occurring on October 27th from 1:30 to 3. It is going to be presented by the Department of Early Learning and Soleil Boyd from SQL. An invite should be coming out to all of the ECEAP coaches soon for you to be able to sign up and attend this webinar if you're interested. So I'm going to pause for a moment and see if we have any questions. So we have a question asking if early achiever coaches and ECEAP coaches will be doing separate action plans for one classroom. So I think I'm going to, this is from Claudia, and I think I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit more about this question, Claudia, because I don't quite understand it. So give me just a second. Claudia? Oh, thank you. Okay, Claudia, I have just unmuted you. Hello?
Hi, yeah. As I joined the training, the last thing I heard is, the first thing I heard when you were talking about setting up goals with the teacher, right? I'm a CCA coach.
You're a CCA coach?
Yes.
Okay. So you're talking about. Are you talking about the collaborative coordination that could potentially happen at a site that you work at where there may be an ECEAP classroom at that site?
Yes. Yes, that's what I'm referring.
So, okay, great. Thanks for clarifying. That helps me understand a little bit better.
Okay, thanks.
So, currently, the coaches that are working in a site location where they're collaborating with a CCA coach, what we have found is the ones that seem to be having the most success are they're setting up meetings between the CCA coach and the ECEAP Early Achievers coach to be able to talk about how they're going to provide services at that site. And then they're working to make sure they're not providing duplicate data entry or other crossovers.
Yeah. So Claudia, I think if we can unmute you one more time. This is just Sue Rose. I just wanted to clarify really quick. So hi, Claudia. We have you unmuted. I just wanted to ask. So it sounds like you're supporting a site that's on the license pathway.
Yes. I am.
Okay, and so so typically you would be the coach for that site and that coach alone, unless you're saying that they also have an ECEAP coach that's also coming into the center.
Yeah, we recently started working with an ECEAP coach because it's one of the ECEAP. My site has one ECEAP room. So my collaboration with the ECEAP is starting just barely.
It's just started. You've just started collaborating together?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because it really looks different depending on where you're located, what the site makeup is, and because sometimes we have classrooms that it's not just 100% ECEAP in a classroom. And so typically, Claudia, I'm thinking of like a licensed center that has just less than 75% ECEAP, but they're sprinkled throughout the classrooms at that location. So typically, it would be the licensed pathway child care aware coach supporting that site. And then sometimes the coordination looks different in that you may be talking directly with the ECEAP director, you know, at the contractor level, communicating like how it's going at that site. Or you're doing, if the coach is coming in and only working with maybe that 100% ECEAP classroom, it sounds like you have a good dialogue going with them. And I think that's what's really most important as we're working this out. It looks different, and as long as it's working, it sounds like that's kind of what we're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I would just...
Does that help, Claudia?
Oh, sorry. I just got confused with you know how as ECEAP EA coaches we put up our information in Wales, and then we set up the our action plans. So for some reason I thought that what you said before is that the ECEAP coach is also working on action plans.
Oh, yeah, and they will.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that whoever's actually assigned to do, so in my mind, and Karen Gans can correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that, you know, depending on what pathway you're on, if it's on the licensed pathway, it would be up to the coach from child care where to kind of have that kind of stuff. I think that what Karen is talking about is when you have a site that's participating in the hybrid project or on the Head Start ECEAP pathway, those coaches then will enter information into Wells for those sites.
And, you know, Claudia, we're going to have some coaches who have been doing this work with some ECEAP, EA coaches, and CCA coaches who've been doing this, and we're going to have them in future webinars talk about how they're collaborating, how they're meeting together to set action plan goals for the site so that the ECEAP classroom goals are incorporated into that action plan. So more to come on this. Thank you for your question. Okay. All right, so getting back to the resources that are available to you, I'm going to now talk with you about SQL and the resources that, some of these resources you may know are available to you and some not, so I'm just going to provide a broad overview of some of the resources from SQL. So you can find SQL at SQL.org. And when you go to the website, you'll be able to find information on the topics that are listed here. I'm going to go there in just a moment to just show you briefly some places on the website. So the Early Achievers Coach Framework Training is provided by SQL, as I said before, and this is a required training for all coaches. And you can contact Melissa Brown at the email that's provided there to get more information about when these coach framework trainings are being provided. The next framework training is scheduled for next week. It will be the October 13th through the 14th, but you can find out about future listings through Melissa. The SQL also offers class and ECHRS trainings, and that information is also available on the SQL website, and you can contact Melissa for more information about that as well. So SQL has been providing monthly webinars. I think they're starting their third year of monthly webinars for coaches. These webinars are available to all early achiever coaches in the state, and I encourage everyone to try and attend these webinars. I know I created a conflict today by scheduling this webinar when that webinar is also happening, but in the future there should not be a conflict between the webinars. So SQL posts these webinars on their website, and I'm going to just go over to the SQL website to show you where those are posted. So this is the SQL website, and this is their home page, and you can go to resources, and then you can go down to web resources and open that, and then you'll see for web resources, they have all of their webinars listed from last year, and you can open one and then you can listen to it. And I'll let you know that the webinars they recorded last year, they had the Herring Center staff come and provide training on individualizing for children and working with providing inclusion services for all children in the classroom setting. So for people who let me know that they wanted to know about working around including children and challenging behaviors, these would be some great webinars for you to view. So then you'll see that there are some other resources here as well. There's the Getting Started with ERS. It's a PDF handout. And this resource has some, I'm sure most of you have seen this already, but if you haven't, this is really worth opening and accessing. It really breaks down the things for you to consider in one place when you're thinking about what changes or what you need to make sure classroom staff are paying attention to around the ERS ratings. So then if I go back up to resources and I go to training materials archived, there are a number of other resources here as well. There's the Getting Started with ERS is in this location as well. They do a nice job of putting resources in multiple places so that it's easy for you to find them. And then you'll see they have information on STEM here. And then they have the Working the Muscles of the Mind posters. I'll just go ahead and open this if this lets me. All right, so these posters are really nice for you to be able to use. They actually have multiple prompt and language resources that they provide on this website, and I'm just highlighting this one just as an example. So it has what teachers can say and then what they can do, and you can pull this up and you can work with teachers to post these in specific areas in the classroom to help them to basically use these as prompts. So what helps foster children's thinking, and then it continues to go down. It's a long document. There are multiple resources. So I will get out of that. Oops. Well, I just got out of SQL. Didn't quite mean to do that, but I got you to the basic area where I wanted you to be able to see where some of the resources are. So you can start in those two areas, and then you can find other resources as well listed on their website. And then Soleil will be providing more information around additional resources at the class training that she's going to provide at the end of the month as well. So the next resource that SQL offers is something called the Coaching Companion. I know that there are some out there who have participated and used the Coaching Companion, and for some this will be new information for you. So the Coaching Companion is a collaborative environment where coaches and teachers can interact privately online. Teacher and coaches can upload video and PDF documents and share comments with one another. In addition, there is a coach discussion board. So that's a great resource for you to put a question out to all the rest of the coaches in Washington State and say, hey, this is happening. Does anybody have any ideas? And you can get ideas from all over the state. Any coaches who have used, so I know that there's some coaches who've used this, and I'm wondering if anyone who's on the line would be willing to talk a little bit about it. So I'm going to pause for just a moment and see who might be willing to share about just a couple highlights from their work with using the Coaching Companion. Okay, so no one is saying that they want to talk about it, which I completely respect. I will we did get one question that asked if coaches are required to use the coaching companion, and the answer is no. You're required to meet the requirements in the ECEAP contract, which we listed before. So the coaching companion is an additional resource, and it is an online resource where teachers can record videos, they can upload it, you can view them from a remote location, and then you can provide feedback for the coaches around suggestions that you have and next steps. So this is only a resource, and you can contact the folks at the University of Washington directly to ask to be added to the coaching companion. It's a good idea if you let them know that you are a coach that works with ECEAP. They've created an ECEAP coach group. So if you let them know that, then they'll make sure to have you be included in that group. All right, so then the last thing that Sequel offers is an internship. So these internships were offered last year, and we had a handful of coaches who participated in these internships, and I will tell you, the coaches that participated in these internships loved them. They just thought the resources and the supports and the information that they got at this 2-day internship was so valuable and helpful to them in their work in multiple ways. So these are individualization internships, and for those of you who don't know, the Herring Center is really the Herring Center for Research and Training in Inclusive Education. It's an integrated early childhood program dedicated to improving the lives of children with developmental disabilities and other special needs, as well as their families. The center is located on the University of Washington Seattle campus. So we'll be going to this Seattle campus to complete this internship. You get to observe teaching practices in their lab school that are related to inclusion and individualization, and then the coaches debrief and discuss their observations. Last year and this year, these internships will begin in January and continue through the spring. And I'm looking into the possibility of having Herring Center staff attend this webinar series in December to talk about what coaches could expect in this opportunity. And I may also ask coaches who participated last year to share their experience as well. If you're one of these coaches and would be willing to talk on a future webinar about this, please email me and let me know. Okay, so I'm just going to pause and see if we have any other questions. No questions, okay? All right, so we had a couple of people who said that they really would like to build or glean information from coaches who have already had classrooms who have successfully been rated a level 4 or 5, and or coaches who have successfully helped classrooms move up points through their coaching work, to be able to share their best tips essentially on how to increase the ECERS and class scores at sites. We've heard from multiple coaches that they're feeling stressed out about the rating requirements this year, and so we're going to try and pull together information from all of you around what are some of the best tips and ideas that you have found to increase class and ECERS scores at sites. We'll send this out in a SurveyMonkey, and once we've collected this information, we'll put it together in a packet of answers for you and potentially talk more in depth on this topic on next month's webinar. And I may ask some of the coaches who respond to the SurveyMonkey to share some details around some of the answers that they've provided. In the survey, we're also going to ask you to identify the sites that you're specifically connected to as a coach. This is going to help us in assigning sites to you in WELS. We're going to work to have this survey out to you sometime next week. All right, so for coaching-related questions, you can contact myself at the email above or Kelly DeBoer. And you can also contact Stu Rose if you have questions about the hybrid project. Next webinar is going to be November 5th from 9 to 10:30 or until we end. And I'll just pause for a moment to see if there are any questions that anyone else has before we sign off and say goodbye. All right, so it looks like we don't have any additional questions. Thank you so much for your time with us today. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing from you. And until we talk next time, have a great month. Take care.